One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake it off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970, The Answer.
That's interesting, Alex. What is that one called?
Good evening, Lucas. This is Really Radical Sabbatical by Aberrant Reality.
That's funny. You want aberrant and radical? Let's talk about the Democrat Party. Despite sweeping victories across key states, Democrats emerged with a jumbled message and are veering more socialist, some would say communist, and they remain leaderless. From Virginia to New Jersey to New York City, voters delivered decisive wins to Democrats. I admit that, many of whom ran against President Trump's second-term agenda. And while the results certainly suggest a rejection of Trump-era economics, Democrats are still in crisis mode, sending voters an array of mixed signals. Now, exit polls on November 4th revealed disapproval of President Trump's leadership. Significant numbers, Mert. 55% of voters in New Jersey, 56% in Virginia, and a striking 69% in New York City expressed dissatisfaction with Trump. Now, those numbers are a backlash to his handling of inflation, housing, and public services, issues that dominated most of the campaigns. So in Virginia, for example, Spanberger flipped the governor's mansion with a campaign based on economic relief and restoring reproductive rights. In Jersey, Mickey Sherrill won by double digits, emphasizing cost of living solutions, bipartisan governance. And of course, in New York City, Comrade Mamdani, a so-called Democrat socialist, won the mayoral race by proposing bold, pie-in-the-sky policies, including taxing the wealthy to fund child care, free mass transit, and housing. And now here I come, Mert. But it seems to me like the Dems are tailoring different messages for different audiences. Is that the answer? And the Mamdani model of telling the people whatever they want to hear, promising them the world, even if you can't deliver on your promises, well, that strikes me as terribly disingenuous. Are you okay with Democrats' duplicity, Mert?
Well, that's very interesting that you try to put it that way, because that's a unique tactic where you're trying to accuse the Democrats of doing something that everyone else doesn't do. Let me just be honest about that tactic that you're trying to talk about.
You're talking about me, or you're talking about the Democrat Party? Which?
I'm talking about Lucas Ferrara right now.
Oh my God!
Because I know Lucas Ferrara is good with the ladies, and I know you've taken a couple of women out on some dates before, and you promised them the world, but you already knew at the end of the day, a lot of those promises weren't going to be met, because you all of a sudden weren't interested in this woman, because you can get supermodels and stuff like that.
Now, you don't know Lucas Ferrara. First of all, I will say for the record, since this show is also being recorded, we're live, but we're also being recorded, I don't lie, Mert, or at least I try not to. Because
you might inflate the truth a little bit. You might say some things that aren't necessarily going to happen. Like, hey, you're the most beautiful woman in the world. You know, sometimes these things aren't true, but you say this.
Right? If I say that, I need it.
But listen, sometimes you say things. Sometimes you say
things. You may be projecting.
Not to be
I think you're projecting. Alex,
not to be a liar.
Gabby, I think Mert's projecting. Mert lies.
I'm not projected. I've not projected anything.
Oh my goodness!
What I'm talking about is
a dating show now. All of a sudden.
No. What I'm saying is sometimes you say things to inspire somebody, uplift them, make them feel confident about themselves.
Inspiring is not lying. I'm
So
not
if you say
following
I'm gonna listen, if Mamdani says
because there's
that's
no
not
plan to do
necessarily
that.
a lie. If he's not
Oh my
allowed to make it
goodness.
happen,
There's no
it's not necessarily a lie. It might be he just didn't have the support in the political system to make it happen. It doesn't mean that he didn't want it to happen. Now, if he
oh
was
my
to actually
goodness.
not feel like that's a good thing to do, that'd be lying. But if he actually thinks that that's something that would benefit the people, and he just doesn't have the political know-how to make it happen, I'm not going to call that man a liar for not making it happen.
And the money.
He just
doesn't
was
have
fighting
money.
us.
It's all pie in the sky nonsense. Come on. Look, can you guess what was the top concern expressed by voters, Mert, when they, at the polling stations? What was the top
Price
concern?
of eggs,
There,
the price
that's
of
it.
food.
That's it. Affordability. That was the top concern. And that's why I think Mamdani resonated, while Cheryl and Spanberger resonated. It was sort of like the anti-Trump vote for sure. And voter participation, over 1 million people voted for Mamdani. 2 million in total voted in New York City. That's like the highest number since 1969.
Hold it there.
What?
I remember Donald Trump saying that he would bring the price of groceries down. Now, I don't think he lied when he said that. I just think he didn't believe how dire the situation was, because prices have gone up.
He may have been slightly delusional because, look, we talked about this before. If you're going to start playing games with tariffs, someone's got to pay, and the consumer ultimately pays. So I think he was mistaken.
And that, what you just said there, is very important, because people need to realize politics is not a science. It's almost an art, because you can't necessarily guarantee what the result will be. So it's an art. It is in the eye of the beholder. You don't never know what might come of what you promise and what you say. Therefore, you have to go in there and practice and try to make things happen. But it won't always work out the way you think it will, which is why you can't call these individuals liar, and I'm not going to let you do that, and I'm not going to let you get away with that, because that's a very dirty trick you're trying to put out there to the world, that Democrats are all of a sudden bad people because they can't live up to their promises. However, the one thing Mamdani has on his side is he's the new guy. So the inspiration is high. People are still looking forward to what he can do. And all we can do right now is wait and see. And you should do the same thing before you try to say the guy is a liar and make him out to be a bad guy.
Hey, Mert, I've said this before on Dottie Herman's show. I love New York. I have issues with New York, but I love New York. And I wish him the best success, because if he succeeds, New York succeeds. But I fear, my suspicion is that it's all malarkey. Anyway, this election was a turning point for Democrats, but in my view, it was entirely symbolic, because turning many of these seats red was never a sure thing. The central question, though, Mert, should the party double down on progressive ideals or pivot to a more centrist, pragmatic message? The Democratic Party has long been a coalition of diverse interests, but it's not your grandfather's Democratic Party anymore. In fact, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, recently said that the old party is dead. He said that after Election Day, and I have his quote. Ready for this, Mark? Because I'm asking you a comment. That's the Democratic Party of old. What happened on Tuesday represents a new moment of clarity, conviction, purpose, energy. On our toes, not on our heels. A resurgent Democratic Party. Hey, Mert, a far-left party is a resurgent party? Sorry, had they learned nothing, Mert, from the 2024 presidential election, voters resoundingly wanted more moderate perspectives. So how do they respond? They go further to the left. How crazy is that, Mert? Oh, look, the audience is getting upset. Please take your seats.
Calm down. Calm down. Don't let Lucas scare you. You can calm down, audience, whoever is out there. Don't let him scare you, because think about it. That was a funny little quote that you said just a minute ago, where this is not, and you threw in there that this is not our grandparents' party that is dead. Right. Well, my grandpa happens to be dead. I'm not shaken up by that. He lived a long, luxurious life, so his time came. But he's dead, so guess what else needs to die? The new generation needs to come up, and they need to do things their way because things die. And that old mentality, however the Democrats used to work, I don't know what you mean and I don't know what they mean. But however things are being done today is the right way because guess what? We're alive right now. It's going to be done the way the people, when we have things that we want and need, those things are going to take priority over what our grandparents wanted. Our grandparents might have wanted more conservative, if you want to put it that way.
Centrist,
moderate perspectives on certain issues. But if those ideals have died with those individuals, now today what we want are the centrist ideas. And maybe your mentality is still borrowing from your grandparents.
You mean they want progressive ideas? You mean they're veering more socialist? Look,
I'm saying what you consider progressive might be centrist because you might be living in the past and you might need to live in the future. I'm not trying to be offensive here. I'm not calling you outdated. I'm just saying, some people like living in the past.
I believe
it's okay.
in democracy. I believe in capitalism. That idea is dying. You know what else is dying, Mert? There are no leaders in the Democratic Party. A few days after the election, Politico came out with a survey which reinforces something I think we all already knew. The Democrats are leaderless. The poll, which was conducted by Public First in the closing weeks of the election, found there was no agreement among 2024 Kamala Harris voters on who they considered to be the leader of the Democratic Party. How's that for dying? Now, the poll surveyed over 2,000 U.S. adults from October 18 to October 21, those people who voted for Kamala Harris, and they were asked a very simple question. Ready for it, Burke? Who do you consider to be the leader of the Democratic Party? That was it, Mert. I have a list in front of me of the top 15 responses. Want to guess, Mert, who came in number one?
Who is that?
No, you got to guess. Pick a Democrat.
Well, you asked me, do I want to guess? I might not want to, but you know what?
I'll ask Gabby.
Oh, God, I have no idea. Please inform me.
No, pick a Democrat. Come on.
I'm not sure. You're going to have to inform me of that one.
Wait. What was your answer? You're not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Mert, what is your answer?
AOC.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gabby got it right. Number one came in at 21%. Don't know. Gabby, you are in good company. Number two at 16% was Kamala Harris. Number three at 10%, nobody. Nobody is the answer. Number four, I don't know, I guess this has changed. Chuck Schumer at 7.7%. 5, Hakeem Jeffries, 7.4%. Barack Obama, 7.4%. Number 7, Gavin Newsom at 6.2%. 8, Sleepy Joe, 4.4%. Ken Martin, 2.2%. Bernie Sanders, number 10, 1.9%. The list goes on. Now, would you believe that Donald Trump made that list? He came in at number 14. So how's that for strange? As a leader of the Democratic Party, number 14 was Donald Trump. Now, here's what some respondents had to say, Mert. A 26-year-old white woman in Arizona who voted for Harris. Ugh, no one. A 50-year-old white woman in California. Not sure who it is now. That is kind of the problem. And a 49-year-old white male in Maryland who voted for Harris. I do not believe there is a leader right now. How's that for a problem? Now, Lauren Harper Pope, a Democratic strategist, said the party is divided fractionally and ideologically. She said, I couldn't tell you who the leader of the Democratic Party is, and I work in Democratic politics. How shameful is that?
I'll say this. You call that a problem, and the Democratic Party might call that a problem, but I don't call it a problem. I see that as an opportunity for maybe someone like old Mert to step up and take the reins.
Mert,
and maybe I should be the one.
Gabby, would you endorse Mert Roberts?
No, I don't want. I want you guys to stay.
Why not?
No. I want you guys to stay. No. I want you guys to stay with Trump because you guys like Trump. I want you to stay on your side.
We support the Mertonator.
But seriously, when people say that there's a problem because we don't know who's the leadership or who's the next person up, I think that's an opportunity to get smart and to craft somebody who can learn from the way things are being done today instead of trying to rely on old fossils who think the old ways of running political campaigns is supposed to work. I think what you have to do is you got to get the younger generation involved more, and you got to select from that group. Now, the problem is everybody is living longer and working longer. So you have people who are fossils who are thinking that they have a good 20 years left to do whatever they need to do. So you have a Joe Biden who at, what is he, about almost 80, was considering running again when his mind was obviously leaving. So you have that, what we have to compete against in both parties, actually, because look how old Trump is, and people are saying maybe he can run for a third time. So we have to deal with that, this lack of wanting to go what's new, because people who are in charge think they still have a lot of time left and they don't want to give up these positions.
I think people like Schumer are finding out to the contrary. I mean, he's under a lot of pressure right now. Here's an interesting tidbit before we go to the break, Mert. They asked some 2,000 Republicans who voted for Trump the same question, and it should come as no surprise. 81% said Trump is the party's leader. Now, riddle me this. Who cracked the top 10 among Republican leaders after Trump? Hurry up, Mert. Who came in after Trump as a leader of the Republican Party? Pick. Gabby?
That's a good question.
Gabby?
I'm going to need a minute to think about that. I don't know.
The vice president. The vice president.
Gabby's don't know. And Mert, come on, we only have a few minutes.
The vice president. I keep saying the vice president.
J.D. Vance. Okay. Gabby is correct again. Number 2 at 5% is don't know. Very good. And J.D. Vance came at number 4. So number 2, don't know. Mike Johnson was number 3. And J.D. Vance, number 4. Nobody came in at number 5. And Joe Gruthers, he's the Republican National Committee chair, came in at 1.5%. Look, the Democratic Party's ideological crossroads is more than a policy debate. It's a battle for the very soul of the party. The choice between progressives and centrists will not only shape the party's fortunes, but also its identity and values. To succeed, Democrats have to find a way to reconcile these competing visions. That means a message that speaks to both urban activists and rural workers, to young idealists and older pragmatists like me. It means listening more, lecturing less, and building coalitions instead of silos. As David Plouffe put it, voters want results, not rhetoric, and whether the party can deliver remains to be seen. This much we know for sure. You're listening to episode 71 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. We are now into our second year of broadcasting. 71, guys. Come on, let me hear an amen. Amen. This is Lucas Ferrara. We're ever mindful that without you, we are nothing, so we're truly grateful. We've got some great guests in store, but before we get to them, I want to introduce you to the man you've already heard. Many of them refer to him as the Mertonator. My co-host, Mert Roberts, working the board. The amazing Alex Garrett. It's got a 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Please check it out. And in the studio is Princess Gabby Pisani, royalty of all royalty. She's Alex's fiancée, and she's keeping us all in check. When we come back after the break, we'll have a special guest for you. Her name is Dr. Shelley Burke. She's got a great book called The Unsung Heroes Nurses. So when we come back, we'll be speaking to her. And then in hour 2, we have our good friend back, Brandon Bronaugh from the Hoarders Show. He's American's lifestyle transition expert. So when we come back, Dr. Burke, but don't go away. Shake it off with me, Alex, Gabby, Dr. Burke, and everyone here at IM 70. Don't touch that dial. We got a nurse on standby. 1945 by Edward J. Petrillo, Yonkers Contracting Company is one of the few construction firms that has continuously operated for 80 years. Currently under the leadership of Carl E. Petrillo, the company has diversified from its roots as a highway contractor to encompass a diverse range of projects, including bridges, paving, rail and transit, water and wastewater, energy and environmental work, site work, and foundations. This includes numerous historic and iconic structures. Among these are New York Penn Station, Grand Central Terminal, and the landmark Brooklyn Bridge. Look over all their projects at YonkersContractingCO.com and follow them on social media for more project updates and news. Carl Petrillo and Yonkers Contracting are supporters of Yonkers Partners in Education, a nonprofit organization that partners with students to ensure they are ready for, enroll in, and complete college. YPI works with more than 2,000 students across Yonkers, providing all aspects of the transition from high school to college success. Visit ypi.org.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
You're listening to Salem Media of New York with another breaking news update. Kevin McCullough reporting. At least one additional death has been reported since my last report in Jamaica. Extensive damage being done through all parts of the northwest and southwest portions of the island of Jamaica. Melissa, the Hurricane Cat 5 that attacked tied 1935's Labor Day hurricane in Florida with wind speed and tied the 1935 hurricane and the 2019 Hurricane Dorian in terms of size, pressure exerted on the land. They measure that in a thing called millibars, and also wind capacity, 295 kilometers per hour in the metric system. That translates to about 190 miles an hour in the western system. So a massive, immense, painful event attacking Jamaica. We are asking for your help. All hands on deck. Every penny saves a life. Every moment is wasted, puts someone in greater risk. Food for the Poor is already on the ground in more than a half dozen of these countries that have been impacted. They are already assisting specifically in Jamaica, where the bulk of the damage is done with food delivery and rescue efforts. But there will be more that needs to be done, and we need your help. A gift of any size right now saves families and children. 855-907-4673. 855-907-4673. Our friends in Jamaica need our help. They're asking you to help right now. 855-907-4673. 855-907-4673. Or go to am970theanswer.com.
The Joe Piscopo Show. Mornings 6 to 10 on AM 970. The Answer. Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970. The Answer.
Motivational medical.
Yes, it is. Motivational medical.
Is that it, Alex?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, I don't know. Where did you go? Did you disappear?
I'm actually
there are people calling in that want to listen to the interview tonight, so I'm actually taking calls from people that want to listen in tonight.
Well, thank you, listeners. We love you, so that's okay. But before, we have a special guest, but before I introduce her, I did want to acknowledge that November is recognized as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month and includes several nurse-specific observances, such as National Nurse Practitioner Week and Perioperative Nurse Week. So it was a thrill to be able to get Dr. Shelley Burke on the program. She's a lifelong nurse, educator, and global health advocate whose passion for healing spans continents and generations. With over 40 years of experience in hospitals, academia, and travel nursing, Dr. Burke brings a rare depth of insight and compassion to every role she embraces. As a clinical assistant professor at the Sue and Bill Gross School of Nursing at the University of California, Irvine, she dedicates her work to advancing children's health, women's issues, and global nursing initiatives, beginning with her native Guyana, where her first international project is taking root. Her debut book, The Unsung Heroes Nurses, is a heartfelt tribute to the frontline caregivers who form the backbone of the healthcare system. Through powerful stories and reflections, she shines a long overdue spotlight on the courage, skill, and humanity of nurses, those who often go unrecognized yet never unnoticed by the lives they touch. Whether in the classroom, at the bedside, or on the written page, Dr. Burke continues to inspire a new generation of nurses to lead with empathy, to advocate fiercely, and to heal with heart. Welcome to the program, Dr. Burke.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me today.
Now, Lucas.
Yes.
Can I start off saying, because that opening intro was there's a lot of truth to that, because I'm very close to a bunch of nurses, and I'd like the doctor to talk about this. What is it that when you finally get into nursing that just breaks these nurses' spirits? Because I want to get into this, because a lot of people are like, they want this to be talked about, because a lot of people don't realize that money that nurses make isn't oftentimes enough to deal with all of that y'all go through actually doing that job, because you're dealing with death, you're dealing with angry patients, a lot of stuff going on. So can you talk about that? Just dive into it.
Yes, many of us enter this profession because we have a heart to care for people. We want to make a change in the lives of many people, and it's a part of our natural compassionate nature that most of us enter into the nursing profession. You have to really have a heart of caring and empathy and sympathy for people to be able to do this work effectively. And if you don't have that and you're just doing it for maybe it's a good paying job, your heart is not going to be in it, and you will not deliver the care to the patients that you should if you're just doing it because it's a job and not a part of your heart desired to care for other people.
So are you saying that's the reason that a lot of people, oftentimes end up hating the job, even though they stick with it because of the money? You're saying that a lot of, and I'm not going to say a lot, but some of these nurses aren't actually in it for the compassion of the people. They're in it for other reasons, and that makes the job a lot more difficult than it actually is in your eyes.
Yeah, well, for those people who are in it because it's a job and it pays well, then you will never have that full feeling of connectivity to humanity in the way you should care and have compassion for them, because your motives or your desire or your intentions were simply because it's a job. But when you're in it, even if your pay is well paid or it's not well paid, but you have that caring compassion, then even the difficult moments when the job becomes difficult, you can work through all of that because you know for what reason you were called to do this. It's not for you just a job. It's for you a care to humanity, a care and a connection to humanity. It's a brilliant thing to see a patient comes in very sick and then they leave maybe walking or doing so much better. And you had an important part to play in that patient's positive outcome or progression to better health.
Hey, but Dr. Burke, I know a few nurses too. Mert's not the only one, and some have told me, Doctor. Yeah, no, and some have told me when I asked them, why are you so tough? Why aren't you more caring with patients? This is my comment to them when I observed them at work. And one of them said to me, Doc, and I'd like your reaction to this, Lucas, I have to keep a tough veneer because if I care too much, then I will burn out and I'll lose a piece of me. So I have to keep a bit of a distance because otherwise it's unhealthy for me. Well, what's your reaction to that? Because I thought it was an interesting observation.
Yeah, I'm here. There's a balance. There's a balance where you sometimes have to assert some firmness for patients who may be unwilling to cooperate. But then that does not say it takes away your compassionate caring for that patient. Assertiveness may have to do with instructions that you may like the patient to follow. You will like the patient to comply with things that will make it better for them, and that's important to do. But you sandwich that with compassionate care, with I understand what you're going through. I know this is a tough time for you. I know this is very difficult for you and your family. You have to say those things because those things indicate that you're not only doing a performance job of making sure that a patient gets some medicine or some IV fluid or whatever you may be doing, but you also want to make sure that you show them, I understand, I can relate, or I know the difficulties you're going through. So I don't believe in this complete external exterior of being totally tough without compassion. I think both can play in the same play box, but you have to show that you care as well as you're willing to do what is necessary to make that patient better.
Doc, it's a high pressure job. Do you find a lot of burnouts, or is that just wives' tales? That's not accurate. Do you find there's a lot of burnout in the profession?
No, we find burnouts, and not always. It's usually for the person who enters this job with a fairy tale expectation that everything is going to be lovely every day. Right. And they come in there and they realize, 12 hours is a long time. That's half a day on a unit, walking up and down and taking care of many patients. Being conscientious of your work, making sure that you do your work and do it well. Many of these nurses, sometimes their burnout happens because they probably overstretch themselves. They take on more shifts because they want some extra money. And you don't do that. You balance work life and your private life in a way that you don't get burnout. You know, it's difficult, but you don't want to get to that point where you dislike your job, where you turn up each day and you don't like doing what you're doing. And that's where the burnout happens.
I want to ask you a question. Right. I want her to answer this after the break because I want you to talk about when you became a nurse. How did you deal with that? Because you said something very interesting where, people get in it expecting one thing and then they are just knocked off their rockers when they get what the reality of being a nurse is. So did that happen to you? And how did you overcome that? So after we come from the break, I'd like you to answer that.
Yeah, Doc, we have to go to a commercial, but have no fear. Dr. Burke will be rejoining us. Dr. Burke's her book, Unsung Heroes Nurses, is available now at Amazon and other major booksellers. We'll post link on our website. Mert, Alex, Gabby, Dr. Burke, and I certainly hope you'll stay tuned. Don't go flatlining on us. We'll be back faster than you could say stat.
30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Nowadays, when a lot of food is good and expensive, Michael's of Brooklyn is something that's just plain good. And if you want the best homemade Italian food, then you must get to Michael's of Brooklyn, Avenue R off Nostrand Avenue. Say hello to Fred and tell him Kevin McCullough sent you here to eat fantastic fresh pasta. And if you can't get to Michael's of Brooklyn, then how about joining the Sauce of the Month Club? You get a different jar of Michael's of Brooklyn pasta sauce and homemade pasta and biscotti each month for 6 months. Each month receive exquisite sauces ranging from arrabbiata to puttanesca and, of course, the fresh marinara. They're family-owned and operated, and I can attest to the authenticity of every one of their recipes. That's why it's stacked in my pantry. Everything is made completely from scratch. Even the sauce they sell in the grocery stores nationwide. They make it right there at Michael's of Brooklyn. So visit michaelsofbrooklyn.com and join the Sauce of the Month Club. That's michaelsofbrooklyn.com or call 718-998-7851. Michael's of Brooklyn, serving the community since 1964.
I love bringing you products that improve your life. Well, this product can save a life. There are 5,000 choking deaths in the U.S. annually. One child dies every 5 days from choking. Older adults are also at increased risk of choking. Foods eaten by the handful like popcorn, grapes, peanuts, they get overloaded in the mouth, cause a choking episode. LifeVac is a simple rescue device that can change a life in a choking emergency. It's non-invasive and easy to use. If you have a young child or a senior relative, I strongly recommend you visit the LifeVac website today at lifevac.net. View the videos demonstrating its ease of use. LifeVac works in 3 simple steps. Place, push, pull. The LifeVac device dislodges the obstruction and suctions out the food or object. It's that simple, and it can be self-administered. Lifevac.net. Unity Bank is dedicated to community-oriented banking and offers a full range of services, including business and personal accounts, business loans, and mortgages. Unity has locations throughout New Jersey and in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, expanding its footprint to 21 retail locations. Grow your savings with their great CD specials. Visit unitybank.com to find out more. Unity Bank is also a great place to work. As Unity Bank President and CEO James Hughes says, the people make Unity Bank a great place to work. We give our employees an opportunity to grow. At Unity Bank, there are no excess layers of bureaucracy as found at Goliath-sized banks. All employees have full access to management with encouragement to make decisions and grow their careers. Visit unitybank.com. That's unitybank.com for current CD and savings specials. They are FDIC insured, an equal opportunity employer, and an equal housing lender. Unity Bank, growing with you.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. We've been speaking with Dr. Shelley Burke, a clinical assistant professor and registered nurse who is shining light on the overlooked legacy of nurses in her powerful nonfiction work, The Unsung Heroes, Nurses. Pick up Dr. Burke's book wherever books are sold, including Amazon. We'll post links to Dr. Burke and her book on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Doc, before we went to the break, Mert had asked you a question. Are you ready to answer it?
Well, sure, yeah. Mark wanted to know if I experienced those kind of difficulty when I started nursing. Of course I did, for many reasons. I was a new immigrant into America, experiencing culture shock, experiencing for the first time in my reality as a young 19, 20-year-old what it is to be discriminated against. I didn't know that growing up. And for the first time also being aware that I'm a black woman and not, just a woman. So all of those consciousness were a part of my environment exposure in America. And when I encountered racism from patients and even colleagues, I did not understand it very well because I didn't live it before. I just thought it's just weird. People will call you by things of your color, or patients will refuse care from you. And so I dealt with that, along with the adjustment of being a new nurse in a new environment. You go through a lot of changes. It's a difficult job, and for a very new nurse, unless you can storm that difficulty within the first 2 years, more than likely you will get discouraged and probably leave. But I was always determined to be a nurse. I work against those difficulties and succeeded.
Hey, Doc, what inspired you to write The Unsung Heroes, Nurses?
Oh, thank you for that question. It's a good question. And the reason I wanted to write this book on unsung heroes is really to identify the people of color, mostly, who are unsung in terms of our textbook and our history in nursing or in healthcare. Many of the people who are cited throughout history are really of European or white descent in this country. And the people of color are much more or less mentioned, or they're less mentioned in many of these books, or their stories marginalized and it's not told. And they too have had great contribution to healthcare, but no one knows about them. And because of that, I thought, along with my own story and my own experiences, I wanted to make sure that we have a more inclusive work that reflects the work of the multi-ethnic, multicultural persons, as well as the persons who always get mentioned in every book. And so I set about to do that and, at least try to correct the record to the extent that I could.
Now, can you share a story from the book that moved you?
Yes, one of them is actually from my very student that I had some years ago. I had a student that was born clinically deaf in one side of her ear, and she could not hear well, so she more or less read the lips of people or look at facial expression. But she was going through nursing school, and when she shared with me that she does not hear well, I was really compelled to take her closely under my wing and really do the best to make sure that she successfully gets through her courses and become a nurse. And that's what I did. And I was patient with her. I really worked hard with her to make sure she covered all the bases and be successful. And she did graduate, became a nurse, and actually she became a pediatric intensive care nurse. So when you think of minute care, think of somebody who does not hear well themselves, but they're taking care of babies or young children who need that minute, close monitoring care, and she has done that. And it's marvelous to see where she's come to and what she's done over the years as a nurse in the intensive care unit of children.
Well, Doc, I'd like to ask the doctor a question, because Unsung Heroes is actually a very appropriate title to describe nurses. So my question to you, because heroes are special people, so do you think that nurses are born or can they be created? Can you teach someone to be an effective nurse, or do you have to be born with these traits that can make you heroic as a nurse and do your job to the best of your ability? Or can you teach someone how to be a great nurse, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you can teach anybody to do things because once they're willing to learn, they can do it. But also, I think many nurses, just by the very early age, they have this natural, compassionate nature to care for others, whether they're caring for their animals or their dogs or whatever it may be. They may have that propensity from a very early age. But I think you can also train people, just like you train for any other job, to be that person. It's for them, it's probably more of a learning curve in terms of how they have to behave and be conscientious of their presentation. But they can learn that too and become compassionate and caring, just like the person who just has that natural propensity to be that way.
Is there a particular message or theme that runs through the book?
Yes, and it's really speaking to the contribution of multi-ethnic nurses. I wanted to bring that to the forefront. I wanted to also show that our job is not as easy as people may see or portrayed on television. Like we're just servants of doctors who blindly and aimlessly and without thought process follow orders and not involved in concrete decision making, and that is not true. So I wanted to make sure that people understand our work is very involved. We become the last standing person many times between the life and death of many patients, because we're the ones that administer the medications and take care of them, monitor them, assess them hourly. The doctors don't do that. They come in, they have their orders, they will talk to the patients for a minute or two, and they're on to something else. But the person who keeps you in check and monitors you for 12 hours or more per day is the nurse. And so we have to give credit to the nurse for what they do. And many times in the shows that we see, the hero person is the doctor who's doing this, that, and the other, and that's not reality. So I just wanted to make sure that that message comes across in terms of our work, and also making sure that the historical facts of multicultural contribution to healthcare be told.
Well, Doc, I thank you and your colleagues for all that you and they do. Their service is greatly appreciated, particularly during the pandemic. They were the frontline heroes. They still are the heroes. And when we talk about unsung heroes, which nurses, how did you pick which nurses to feature and what stories to tell? That must have been very, very difficult.
Yes, and I went to places that I worked with nurses, and I asked people who I know are nurses or nurse leaders to tell me their story. I wanted history to be told by the person who lived it. Many times we have history told by somebody who wrote about something, an event, for instance, the pandemic. But when I can speak to the person directly and get their story from first-hand story from their account of what they lived through, that is a much more accurate reflection of the time and what happened in that event. And so I chose nurses who I knew were working during that time and asked them to tell me their stories, and they did. And I wrote to this, they told me. And so we're getting history, first-hand history. 100 years from now, those people who told their story, it was what they lived through. It wasn't a second-hand account or a third-hand account. It was their account of their lived experiences, and you cannot deny people's lived experiences. And so that's the uniqueness of the book, is that we have stories there that speak to what has happened from the person who went through that session or that season in their lives.
And that book is Unsung Heroes, Nurses. It's available at Amazon and all other major booksellers. Go pick it up. Now, as a clinical assistant professor, Dr. Burke, what do you emphasize most to your students?
Yeah, I happen to work at the University of California, Irvine, and many times I have to tell my students, you go to the hospital or you go to a clinic when you get your job, and you think about doing your best at all times for your patient. You put yourself in their shoes, and I also warn them, there are times patients are going to be reactive towards you because they're angry, they're upset, they're disillusioned, something scary has happened to them, and you become the target. But don't take it personally. Understand from their perspective, it's a difficult time in their lives. Maybe a loved one is dying or close to death or the accident that happened. Understand it from their perspective. And so if they're a little rough and harsh with you, just learn to say, how can I help you? Turn that around and be gentle in your approach to caring for that patient. And many times, they do turn around, because I've experienced that many times myself, where a patient was unkind, and I was gentle, and then hours or maybe the next day, the patient would apologize and say, I was harsh to you yesterday, or I didn't speak well, I'm so sorry. And I understood what they were going through, and if I had reacted to their behavior, then it would have been a tension that could probably never be healed. So we have to learn to understand our patient's perspective and learn how to take care of them in spite of the fact that they may be negative to certain times that it happens.
Doc, we only have a few minutes left, unfortunately. And by the way, I did want to tell you that the switchboard here at AM 970 lit up. It's full of people who have called just to listen to your interview. So it is an honor to have you on the program, because you have a lot of people out there who love and respect you. Now, what do you hope readers, especially non-nurses, take away from your book?
Yeah, thank you for your switchboard being lit up and people are listening in, and I think this is important to communicate to everyone, including the lay person. But I wanted for lay people to understand more so the true nature of the role of a nurse and how they do not have to be afraid to approach a nurse. A nurse more likely would be the one who will break down education and knowledge in the most simplistic way for a patient to understand. Many times patients go into the hospital and the doctors may use words or expressions that the patient don't know. And they may shake their head like they know something, but they don't fully understand. And many times it's up to the nurse to say, what the doctor was really trying to say to you is X, Y, Z, and you need to do this, that, and the other. And so we become that more approachable person in many cases, to make knowledge much more understanding. So when the patient leaves the hospital, they understand what they need to do at home because somebody made it easier for them.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Please pick up Dr. Burke's book, Unsung Heroes, Nurses, wherever books are sold, including Amazon. We'll have links to Dr. Burke and her book on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Thank you, Dr. Burke. It was truly a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
When we come
back,
have
a good evening.
We'll be joined by Brandon Bronaugh, a transition expert and founder of Life Cycle Transitions. He's the star on A&E Hoarders. I'm sure you've seen him. He's helped thousands of families. So it's imperative you come back after the news, the top of the hour, suffer through a few commercials. But once that's all done, Mert, Alex, Scabby, Pisani, Brandon Bronaugh, and I will be here waiting for you. A lot more controversy awaits. Maybe some answers when we come back. Brandon Bronaugh joins us to talk hoarding, because sometimes there's nothing harder than letting go of those 47 lawn flamingos. Stay tuned.
The preceding hour of programming sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.